Better? Yeah.
All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network and welcome to our guest. Well, she kind of lives here. She's not really a guest. Marni Watson, hello, how are you doing?
Good morning, Tam. I'm good. I'm really good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, it's feeling like it's turning into winter. I'm a little chilly. That's probably my biggest complaint today. I have some nerve, issues, so when it gets a little bit cold, I sometimes mm, that part makes me crazy, but it's improving as everything does. Better and better. I think that's important. And as we were just talking before we came on here, this is your second appearance as an interviewee with us. And yeah, things have changed. You've really grown a lot in the last
Thank
little
you.
while. And yeah, it's amazing to have you back. And I can't wait to just share you with our group, of course. So,
Thank
first of
you.
all, tell us where you are in the world, because that's kind of, we know how we love that.
I am Marnie, and I live on Vancouver Island in the north. I always laugh about that, but yes, it's considered North Island in Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And
Yes,
I'm a little bit jealous. I have my heart is still a little bit in BC. So I, uh,
just a little bit.
it
Yeah,
is, I can't
yeah,
help it. I can't help it.
yeah.
So, welcome back. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network. And I know you've come on board with us. You are one of our sages. You're a guide, I guess, in the Griever's Grotto. And that is, for myself, knowing a little bit about you, that is your little egg has broken open and you're
Yeah.
bursting into the world. And it's amazing. So, yeah, go ahead. Why don't you tell the people who might not know who you are yet a little bit about who Marnie is?
Sure. It definitely feels different this time. Being interviewed for the second time, it's funny how I stuck my hand up without hesitation this time, and before it was like, yeah, it's the interview, and now it's like it's better. It's not completely there, but it's like a lot better. Anyways, what I do in the world, I am a lifelong caregiver. I'm a healthcare aide, first and foremost, and also a Reiki practitioner, end of life doula, death doula, whatever way you want to say it, whatever way makes you feel comfortable. I look after people in their end of their lives. I love that work the most, and it is beautiful to be in that community. So, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's
Well, I mean, we
everything.
know it takes a special person to be able to do that work. And, for somebody to be able to present it to the rest of us, because it is a little bit of a delicate subject, sometimes people get a little bit frightened or just off put, or they're triggered in some way around the subject of, you know, end of life just being end of life. And then when you add the word death in there, people sometimes really shy away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's, a really good reminder to remember that it is a transition. It's not the end. It is just a transition of where we're going from where we've been. And that you're doing that work for people is absolutely incredible. So can you tell us a little bit about what is the work? Like what kind of things does a death doula, end of life care person do?
Well, there's all kinds of facets of end of life care. Excuse me. Um, you can be acquired for, just helping someone adjust to their new situation. They might be handed that, and sometimes that's unexpected. And sometimes it can be flipped where someone passes away quickly and, a family needs a doula. So it just really ranges, but there's all kinds of things that we can do. We can do legacy work. We can do um, online presence closure. Um, and I know that this is like, it always sounds end, um, but it's end of life work. Death is part of living, and everybody experiences it, whether it be, yourself with people around you or work you do. There's all kinds of healthcare providers that are dueling all of the time. And so I was one of those people. I was one of those people working in long-term care for a long time. And I loved that work, and I loved working with older folks and just their sassiness, and ultimately they come to the end of their lives, usually in a long-term care facility because they're there for reasons,
Right.
right?
Right.
So yeah, there's all kinds of things. There's vigil work, there's um, like I said, there's legacy work, which is a pretty big piece.
Oh, I know one that I don't think we mentioned on here before.
Okay.
The portraiture work.
Yes, the memorial portraiture. Um, and there is a Latin word for it. I can't remember the name of that, but anyways, yes, that's work that's quite interesting. And I remember, I'm going to give a little story here. Years ago, when I worked for Woolco Walmart. Years ago, I worked in the photo lab just after I had my son, and I used to get. We were actually developing film in a machine, in a Kodak machine. And I remember we'd have to go through all the pictures to make sure to adjust them for people. And there was a lot of people that would come in. I shouldn't say a lot of people. There's a few there's a special kind of group of people, a special culture actually, that took pictures of their dead. And it meant a lot for them. And I remember holding that space and remember when they used to come pick them up and handing them the package of pictures, and they used to get like doubles and triples made. And I remember some of my coworkers used to be like, "What is happening right now? Why would someone do that?" And I was just like, they're capturing, this space that, a lot of people wouldn't even get to be in or see. And sometimes, cultures, when you live far away from your families, as you got to capture stuff. And I remember how weirdly it was. I shouldn't say weirdly. That's the wrong wording. I remember being fascinated that they were taking pictures of it, and I looked it up then, and I learned about it then, and I knew about it then, and it's quite a special thing. I mean, years and years ago, like in the early 1900s, people used to prop up their people and take pictures of them for a one last picture. And it's a special thing, and it is a photo shoot. It is actually a photo shoot with an actual camera, and many people use it for young young generations, like when people have loss of children, they'll use that as it's different when um, a mother has a child or has a baby or whatever, right? It's different. It's almost like a different realm of life. It's quite
Right.
special. And like I mentioned before, I do know a few people that work in that modality of end of life care. So it's special. I
Yeah,
love it.
definitely sounds like it's special. I mean, it's sacred, I guess, ultimately. It's a sacred practice, I guess. And that is what I really I'd love to learn more about, want to know more about, because it's been such a closed topic. And that
Yeah.
you're out there, you're, probably one of the fewer people that are out on, say, social media, talking about it, introducing people to it, helping people understand what it is. And I think that is, as I said, it takes a special person to be in this kind of work. And that definitely is you. Um, so how did you get into this? Okay, you worked over there, you're developing photos, you're finding out about this interesting ways that people are dealing with their end of life. And was there like a moment when you realized, oh, I really would love to be a doula?
I didn't even know that there was such thing until 2016. Actually, a friend put me onto this institute that was offering some training in a couple of different phases. But I mean, I prior to that, I had been carried in long-term care for a very long time in various different places, and had stewarded many people at the bedside, and held them and with their families, of course. So. I mean, when I actually took the physical training, they said you're already there. You're already everybody in this room is already doing that work. It is who you are. Not everybody can come into the space and like move forward with it because it's something special that just keeps showing up. And and I think that being here in the Women's Wellness Network and talking about it and coming back on here and talking with various different people um, there's fear around that. Like in my own self, I had that where I was like, oh, like I don't have a problem with it, but I know that a lot of other people are going to have a problem with it, and that's finally falling away. It's finally just it's coming off of me where you might turn away from it, and other people might turn to it, and so that's all what you're doing in the moment. And so, if that makes any sense, um,
Yeah,
it might,
totally.
but it might, it's like a modality that not everybody is able to look at now and maybe later and
Right.
maybe
Well,
now, right? If they need that.
or just to have an interest or are curious or wondering what it's about or want to know more because, you know, we all will be there eventually one day, right? We're all going to die.
Yeah.
That's part of the life experience. Um,
Yes,
and I just think,
absolutely.
yeah, the more information that we have, the more open that we are about it, the more we're, as you said, people turn away. But maybe people can start taking a peek, start just what's going
Yeah.
on over there, because right, we're all going to need I would think everybody would need this service because it's sacred and it's a beautiful way to close the book, I would say. And it involves everybody, like not just yourself but your family members and your friends and people that can be there with you. But you also said sometimes families just have to deal with whatever's happened, if it's a sudden thing, and they might need it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's not just for the person who's dying, it is for the families too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say that I sometimes it feels more usual for the families because say you have a mother passing away or she's sick and dealing with an end of life issue. And, sometimes people don't have anybody to talk to. And sometimes there's just one child, or sometimes it's logistics, right?
Mm,
It just, there's so many scenarios that places, end of life care in the hands of whoever it might be, whether a person dying or a family. And it is big and scary. And I think you and I recently talked about how there's some people in the world, even at our age, that haven't experienced it theirself
right.
with someone that they are close with or know, or they haven't been touched. And there's people that have had it over and over and over again, experiences with end of life and
Right.
loss and
Right.
grief. And yeah, it just depends on what you've been handed, and it it's beautiful work. It's work that I can't ever will let go of. And it's helped me. It's helped me a lot in my own opinion about my own mm, mortality. It's huge because that was a big fear for me.
Right. And probably most
Um,
people.
well, yeah, especially when you're around it a lot, you're like, God, it can happen any second. It could, I might not wake up tomorrow, like all kinds of different stuff, right? And that's a real thing. And some people, that happens to them. And you just have to just embrace it and be brave. It's hard. There's a
Yeah.
lot of fear
Oh
in
gosh.
that. And so people look away, like you said, they look over here. I'm going
Yeah.
over here. You go to a party, you talk about it, and like people are like,
Running.
I got to get a drink.
Yeah, I need two. This is way too much for me to handle. Oh my goodness. Well, it is true though. Like people are they are shy and they're not educated, and it's not something, especially here in North America, that we've really embraced. We haven't, you know, taken over. Definitely pockets of culture, yes. But on a whole, we don't talk about it. We don't prepare. We don't do any of the things that maybe we should be, considering. And I think,
Mhm.
myself to go ahead and find out all the things like what you have to offer, right? What do I want to plan for? What would I like at the end? Instead of, laying in the bed, um, being feeling terrible, knowing that it's any moment could be your last, and trying to make these decisions or trying to decide what you actually want. It would be very overwhelming, I would think. So I think, in the way that the world's working, we're starting to um, really embrace things that are have been put on the shelf over there, and people haven't been looking at so much. And I think now is the time. Now's the time for anybody, any person, to be able to say, oh, what's there for me, and what can I do, what can I prepare for, what can I and get your family involved. And it could be something that's uplifting rather than um dark and gloomy.
Yes, and often dynamics play huge parts. And sometimes doulas are like you're like a bridge.
Mhm.
Um, and that's helpful too. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I think it would be amazing. I mean, to have that to work with you or work with somebody like you long before you're ill, long before you're old, long before, like,
totally.
yeah, so that you can, and when it comes time, nobody has to worry about it. It's a party. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
beautiful and it's sacred and it's, all the
Yeah,
things that I would want it to be for myself. I don't want it to be desperate or, you know, nobody wants to talk about it. I want it to be a celebration. And I think that's, you know, the crux of the work that you do is that you're celebrating the person's life and trying to help others feel like they want to do that too. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also I'll bring up again, legacy work is often done before anything like, you know, comes in any kind of diagnosis or, you know, bedside vigiling or whatever you want to have. Legacy work is huge and it's often very difficult when you're sick and unwell or alone or whatever. But yeah, legacy work is quite interesting and it helps people come together. Sometimes, not all the time, but it sure helps people really resolve if they have any like life stuff to resolve. It's huge, huge work,
Well, can you
big
explain
work.
a little bit maybe what legacy work is? Because a lot of people might not have any idea what that is.
And that's another thing that it can branch off into many different facets, legacy work. I'll give you a couple, like, I'll give you examples. So say someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I had a diagnosis and the doctors say this is how long I have. All my kids live all over the United States. I live in Canada. That's just an example. You know, they don't know anything about me. Like we've been apart for so long, you know, and that's an often big reality for people. When your kids grow up, you spend way so much less time with them, and that can be hard. And so, if you've ever watched the movie Bridges of Madison County, have you ever seen that movie, Dan?
Oh my gosh, yes, but so long ago. And since all my health issues, I remember so little about any book that I've read prior and any movies I've
Right.
watched. So I'm like, I have a whole new
Yeah.
brain.
So I
Everything.
mean, this woman, it's quite the story, and it's Meryl Streep and Clint Eastwood, and she documents her life, right? She journals, and anyway, her kids come together at a certain point in the movie, and I won't give it away, and they find out things about her. Anyway, it's just there's documentation and there's help with so in that example I gave you, you could help somebody really prepare a like almost like I'll say use legacy again so that when that person dies, whether they're with their family or not, they're that is there for those children that didn't really know her after all these years of living apart, say in that example. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. So that's
Great
one
example.
example
That's a
of
good example.
Yeah, and it's just and people really want and I remember when I worked in long-term care, I remember looking after this man years ago in Kamloops, and he had a vascular dementia, and he said to me, he's like, I had a good life. I was this, I was that. I wrote this book, I did this, and he had so much passion for everybody to understand and know and realize and really see him.
Right.
And so and he couldn't stop telling us. He was just like, I need you to know that I'm such a good person, and I did this and I did that, and this is the work I did, and this is where I worked, and this is who I was married to, and this is my family. And
Wow.
so all of that, as years go by and as we're apart from our loved ones, all of that stuff falls away. And so being able to remind the people that are left, that, that person, this is the life they led. This is the good work they did. This is
Right.
the books they wrote. That might not even be a real thing. And so sometimes that's a real huge realization for
Right. Yeah, my goodness. Well, especially when you use that part about being
people. So
separated for a long time,
yeah,
right? Because, you know,
yeah.
um, even
Mhm.
myself, I spent a lot of time apart from my family when I was growing up. They all lived back here, so I don't know a whole lot about, say my grandparents and all that kind of stuff. So that would have been really a beautiful thing for the descendants. Even if it was somebody did it today and somebody's going to look at it from 50 years from now and you know see that that's their person, that's their family, that's who they belong to. So I love that work. I think that is a beautiful thing for probably most people to um, leave behind,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
a legacy. I guess that's why you call it that, right?
Yes, for sure. And legacy work can also be like, this is your planning. This is your ultimate, when we worked on that, it was a project that we did as a practicum, and we did this thing called and it's a facet of their training, and it's called the best 3 months.
Okay.
And anyway, you're planning out, like we had open conversations, and I think that this is what helped me really realize, like, this is really inside of me, is that I got asked questions like, if you had this diagnosis and this is you now and your family, you've told them, like, where do you want to be? How do you want to do that? Do you want MAID? Do you want to live, where you are? Do you want to move? Do you want to shut down things? Like, so that's part of legacy work too, is just, that's a lot of dueling with that. And I remember in my answers to those questions, it was just like, oh, I'm living in the place I've always wanted to live, in the cottage at my friend's house on her property in Ladysmith, her and her husband. And I love that property. And we brought our kids up there. And um, anyway, I lived in that cottage for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And it was everything to me. And I just thought, oh, I'll close down my cottage, I'll sell all my stuff, and I'll move to Kamloops, and so I'll just be with my sisters and be with my family up there and move towards them. And then that was the answers I gave. That was
Right.
that was it. Yeah, I'm gonna pack everything up, close this down, get out of Karen's hair, kind of thing, right? That's how I felt. And then as I moved through the work, it was amazing. This was my work. I
Yeah.
did my own kind of thing. And I was just like, what is outside my bedroom window? I mean, and if Karen watches this interview, she'll understand what I'm talking about. If I was to open up my curtains in my bedroom, what did I see? I see the forest. I see green. I see the place that I love to be. So then I thought, I got to scratch all that out and wet it all out. It's wrong. I don't want my family to, I don't want to move myself up. I don't want that. That's not what I need and want. I wanted to stay in the place that brought me so much happiness, and everybody that knows me knows that living there was just everything for me and my healing and my journey. And you and I connected, just on our phones, while I lived there, while you lived in Nanaimo for a while. It was just, so I changed my answer. I'm like, I'm changed my answer. I changed my answer, and I want to die in the cottage, in
Oh,
that bedroom, in my bed.
amazing, right? Yeah, when you
Yeah,
actually give some thought to it, when you really put in the heart into
yeah,
it and realize what it is that you do want instead of
yeah.
just I think other people will be comfortable if I do this or I do that, or, thinking about the other people, which is probably, I think, most, I don't know about men. I'm not a man, but I know most women would probably do that. Instantly, that would be their first thing. And that's what you
You don't
did.
want to burden, right?
Right. Exactly. And, but that's not really, we're not being true to ourselves. We're not being true to
No.
even what we're leaving behind because, you know, those people might be thinking, oh, that's all she wanted. That was it. That's enough, whatever. When really, then they didn't know you and they didn't know the things that were important. And I think I love that. I love the whole legacy thing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And I
Um,
brought that whole example to my friend Paul Marie, and I said, what am I, you know how I feel about this place? Like, what am I, what is with me, Anna? And you're asking yourself and answering your own questions at the same time. And yeah, it was burden. I didn't want to have all of my household there. And it's not like I couldn't work on that there. I could. So it would be less of a burden, because I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone through it before, but if you're left with someone's leftovers, and you got their entire life and house and it's here you go. It's like it's a lot. My son went through that and it's just a shower of overwhelm. It is so a lot much. So that's where my mind went immediately. I was like, no, I'll clean it all up. I'll make it all perfect and pretty and I'll just be me and I'll die. And you can cremate me. And now I'm like green burial and
right.
the forest and
All these awesome, fun things that your spirit's going to enjoy.
yeah, plant medicine, all the stuff, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, there's even that. Like, that's another subject, but yeah, we'll just keep talking about that,
Yep,
right? Yeah.
exactly. That is the thing. And the more we can speak about it, the more we can show benefit towards it, the more people will start to, oh, what's happening over there? What is
Yeah.
that? And then when
Hmm.
it's more positive or
Hmm.
feels like or seems like it's more positive, it's never not been. It's just, our own mindsets, our own ways that we've been always just our programming, we've been brought up this way or society says it's this way. So we have an opportunity to change a whole lot of things, the ways
Yeah.
of living, dying, getting through illness, overcoming things. And, you mentioned plant medicine, and that's, as you said, that's a whole nother topic of
It
absolute.
is.
And, but that could be part of it. And, if you're
Absolutely.
not open to it or you're not aware of it, then how can you utilize it? You can't.
Yeah.
And I think we should at least have the knowledge. If nothing else, you
Hmm.
don't have to accept everything. You don't have to do everything in the way that other people do it,
Yeah.
but at least have the knowledge. And I think
Hmm.
that's super important. And I think that's why I love what you're doing because you're actually, sharing things with us that we don't know a lot about.
Thank
And
you. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
I
cool.
and hey, Christmas trees and pine cones and snowy trees and Christmas comes around and when there's a situation that you're in with whether it be a family member dying. It was Christmas time when I was a young person as a young mother, and my mother was dying of her brain cancer, and she was alone. She didn't have a spouse. Her spouse kind of decided to leave. This is too much, Bleh. And he walked. And so we all jumped in, and my husband at the time and my family, we did all that we could. Like I said, I was a young mother, and I was very pregnant when she was diagnosed with her cancer, and it was that day. We had that day. I'll never forget it, where we were away, and it was a May long weekend, and I came home. I was about 7.5 months pregnant, and we came home. I got a call. We got a call, and my husband took off to the bedroom, and he was on a hush hush call without me hearing. And so, I was like, something's wrong. And so anyway, he came out and he said, and we had come home on the May long weekend to go to um, I think a final kind of not Lamaze, but when you're preparing, hospital visits and you're gonna have a baby. It's my first baby, only baby. And he said, "Oh, it was like your mom's boyfriend." And he said that this is what's going on. And she went to the hospital today and she walked in and they scanned her brain and then they scanned her brain again. And they, they had some bad news for her and we need to go see her. So we decided we'll go to our thing and then we'll travel in from Abbotsford into Surrey where she was in a ward in the hospital. And we got there and that was what we got. And it doesn't matter, like death and diagnosis doesn't care who you are, what you're doing, what time of year it is, how old you are. It doesn't matter. It just shit happens. And um anyways, we were given that information that she wouldn't be pulling out of it and it was just gonna, get worse and all that stuff. And she would have a few options to kind of delay things. But anyway, that was big. And, and then when it got really bad and close, it was Christmas, right? And so um this is hanging around in the back corner of your living room. And, I say it like that because it's just there. And it happens to lots of people at Christmas. There's all kinds of people out in the world right now that are going through exactly that same stuff or, similar, right? Where they've got someone, actively dying or, on their countdown of time. And it's just, yeah. And so Christmas, you know, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's true. Yep. We gotta,
So,
it's no different, I guess, the bookends you say, you're born at any time, it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
You're born and you
yeah,
go when it's time. And that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it. We don't get to make that decision. That's not,
yeah,
ultimately up to us.
yeah. Birth and death happens to everybody,
Yep, it sure does. It sure
right?
does. Okay, if our women would like to
Yeah.
reach out to you, find out more about you, find out, how to connect with you, how can they reach you?
Um, I have a I have an Instagram page called Paradigm End of Life. You can go onto Instagram and it's at Paradigm End of Life. You can reach out to me on Facebook. You can private message me. Um, my email is paradigmendoflife@gmail.com. And reach out to me there. And then we can set up a consultation or a call, just a call, whatever suits a person. So, yeah,
Okay. And I guess it
yeah,
depends wherever they are in that journey, whether they're just curious like me and maybe want to prepare, get a head start,
yeah,
learn
mhm,
more, have
yeah,
more better understanding,
yeah,
or if they're a family member and maybe they know somebody in their family is coming to the end and they're not too sure what to do. So that might be a good person to reach out,
yeah,
or the person themselves. Because as you said, not everybody has family around, not everybody has um, other people to take care of them or to even help them make arrangements or understand about the arrangements or any of that. So you would be a beautiful person, I know,
thank
to
you.
for people to connect with. So thank you for that because it's super important, especially at this time of year. As you mentioned, we get a little more heavy, we feel a little more sentimental and all those kinds of things.
Yeah,
So knowing that there's people out there, people
yeah,
care, there's somebody that we can talk to. Uh,
hmm
I think that's the important part. So, Women of
yeah,
the Women's Wellness Network, if you would like to know anything more about Marni, what she's doing with her end of life doulaing, death doulaing, however you want to say it, find out more about what she's doing with the work, like how it all works together. Reach out to her, find out, connect, ask some questions. It doesn't hurt. And if you know of somebody else who maybe is in that position and it's time, let them know. Pass her information on to them because together we rise and together you know, we walk this path together. So why not help each other find one another when we need to? So, Marnie, is there anything else you would like to tell us today before we go?
yeah. I just want to just touch on again the time of year, right? It doesn't matter, and it can be hard to go through anything like this time of year, and for me, I loved Christmas and my mom created Christmas for all of us. And so I didn't let that time period around Christmas taint anything that, I love about Christmas or my family loves about Christmas. So I don't get sad. I get happy. And because she always created lots of joy. And even though she was dying around Christmas, um, it didn't matter. Yeah, it was sad the next year. I had a young baby and all that jazz. But I mean, things change. time
Yeah.
goes by and I've just learned to just, this is a really hard time of year for some people. It just doesn't feel like Christmas, so
Yeah, right.
it's okay.
It is okay. It is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
And yeah, we continue forward until that last breath. And
totally.
that's our job, right? We're here to live
Absolutely.
until it's time to not. So,
Right?
right? Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, Women of the Women's Wellness Network, I would like to say thank you for watching, of course. And until next time, which hopefully is
Thank
very
you.
soon. Be well. And Marnie, thank you so much for coming. And a little shout out to Marnie's mom, Julie. I know you're watching. Okay. I love you, girl. And
Love you too.
yeah, have a great day.
Thank you,
Thank
Tam.
you, everybody. You're welcome.